Hello, book burners, and welcome to another episode of Books Are Burning. I'm Mark Will, author, songwriter, and publisher in permanent exile, currently based on the island of Taiwan. And I'm joined once again by G.J. Villa. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is the Rejoyce series of podcasts. We're rereading James Joyce's Ulysses. How's that going for you? Where are you now?
I made my first pass through Oxen in the Sun, so I'm up to Circe, but I'm going to go back, obviously, to Oxen. Probably my least favorite episode, right? And yet, not without its riches. How about you? Where are you?
I think I got as far as what's it called? With
Cyclops?
the Citizen? Cyclops, yes, thank you.
That's
I got
right,
as far as that, and then I've been going back, rereading, episodes multiple times to prepare for these podcasts. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I mean, I guess I'll try to make more headway through the book, but I'm in no rush. I'm enjoying the journey of rereading.
Me too. Yeah, same thing. Reading several other things on the side, but there might be a few days I go without looking at it. But
yeah, we just
I feel like after
revisited...
we finish an episode, it's like, okay, that world now, I feel like I have a hold on that and how it connects to the others. And going at this pace is actually very nice.
Well, we just reread W.G. Zabalt's The Rings of Saturn, didn't we? That was a great joy.
A side excursion. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, I found the last 5 years as I age, revisiting books is as pleasurable as new ones, if not more so. It's great. All right.
Well, let's get into it. This is Rejoyce. That's the name of this podcast series on Books Are Burning. The Houston Joyce Society, that's us, G.J. Villa and Mark Will. The Houston Joyce Society rereads Ulysses. And if you're watching the slideshow, you can see a picture here of Sylvia Beach with Double J. He looks like he's ready to take a stroll through the Parisian streets.
Yes, indeed.
He's got his walking stick and a hat like Steve-O himself. And the episode that we discussed today involves some wandering and walking as well. Let me close this YouTube window.
I love that picture of Joyce there with Beach looking reverently upon him there.
Yeah.
He's in
dubiously.
His peacock, or
skeptically.
Dubiously. But this is he's in his peacock arrogance sort of phase, public phase. That was post-publication of Ulysses and the way that he promoted that and talked about it and so on.
He was a bit of a dandy.
He definitely. You
he
see
had,
that here.
He had a bit of blazes boiling in him, didn't he?
He did have a bit of it. That's a good point. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought this was some nice inspirational fodder. William Faulkner says, you should approach Joyce's Ulysses as the illiterate Baptist preacher approaches the Old Testament with faith. So some of our listeners and viewers who may be struggling, just keep that in mind. Like, this is not an easy text to make your way through. So just rest assured that it all means something, believe, and it'll all make sense eventually. All right, let's see what we've got here. Of course, these are the texts we've been using. GJV is using the Double J Random House. I've still got the Modern Library edition falling to pieces here. So page number references are to those texts. And we're still in the middle section of the book called the Odyssey, or the Ulysses section. It starts with that big M in episode 4. That middle section is episodes 4 through 15. And today we're discussing episode 10 called Wandering Rocks. And the subtitle of this episode is Oh Rocks, which alludes back to a statement made by whom? Who said that?
Molly Bloom.
Molly Bloom in episode 4, I want to say.
Calypso, when we first meet her.
Yeah.
In dialogue with Bloom. That's right.
Oh,
in the bedroom.
Rocks, she says. All right. So by way of a plot summary, this is from our WhatsApp chat group. Looks like I finished rereading it back in June 4th. So I've probably read it 3 times since then, but I told you and our friend Ryan Whitlow just finished rereading W.R. Labyrinth. The streets of Dublin are a maze in which the various citizens try to find their way. And what do they find at the end? Not a minotaur, but a stupid anticlimactic cavalcade with the Earl of Dudley, whoever the fuck he is. That was a little bit crude, but I mean, it is kind of pointless, right? In terms of,
in terms
plot
of
movement.
Plot movement, yes, it's this moment in time. You have almost like this hovering presence above the maze that selects and chooses these different lives and consciousnesses, right? So yeah, right. On that hand, it's an interlude, as Joyce called it, right?
Well, and to be fair, a lot of the other episodes don't have a lot of action either, right? So
right.
In a way, it's all par for the course.
And I would also
not
say
a lot is happening. It's the journey, not the destination.
Right. And this is a pause in the journey. We do see Bloom as one of the many vignettes, right? But he's not the focus, right? The focus is this viewing and depicting all these lives at this moment in time on this day. Right.
Yeah. And Steve-O is there too, of course.
We get Steve in as well. And just to get the Ulysses reference, the Odyssey reference in here early. In the Odyssey, while Odysseus is talking to Circe about the route back home, and she begins with you can go, there's all the way you can go by the Wandering Rocks, but no man other than I think Jason and the Argonauts has ever gotten through. You'll die, or you have to go this other route, and the other route you go to, you have to go by Scylla and Charybdis, which we've already talked about, right? So the Wandering Rocks is not even an episode, is not even a developed adventure in Odysseus' adventures home in books 9 through 12 of the Odyssey. It's just a passing reference, you can't go this route, right? So Joyce here takes this route, right? And it has nothing to do with the immediate action, right? And then he gives us this portrait of Dubliners at this time of hour.
Yeah. All right, so looking at our Gilbert Lenati will schema, I'll let you read this. What's the scene?
The scene is the streets. It's 3 in the afternoon, again on June 16th, 1904. The organ is blood. The art is mechanics. The color, rainbow. The symbol is citizens. The technique, labyrinth. And then a series of correspondences. The Liffey is the Bosphorus. The Viceroy is the European Bank. Father Conmee is Asiatic Bank. Group of citizens, how would you pronounce that?
Symplegades.
Symplegades, right. And I'll admit that to me, the correspondences here are less interesting to me than what we'll talk about in a second, the organ, the art, the symbol, the technique.
Well, it's interesting, though, because, by bank, we're not talking about the institution where money is stored and manipulated, right? We're talking about two sides of the Bosphorus, which is, modern day Istanbul, right? You've got the European side and the the Asiatic or Asian side. And that is interesting when we consider what these Simpligades are. This is from Wikipedia, our favorite CIA
tell us.
website. The Simpligades are sometimes identified with or confused with the Planctai or Wandering Rocks. So, according to this, the Wandering Rocks are actually the Planctai, not the Simpligades. So that, you know, in myth, there are always these confusions
Overlaps
and
and
different
confusions
overlaps, variations. So the Wandering Rocks, which are mentioned in not only the Odyssey, but also Apollonius of Rhodes' Argonautica. That's the journey of, you know, Jason and the pursuit of the Golden Fleece. So in Apollonius telling, the Simpligades were encountered on the way to the Golden Fleece, and the Planctai were encountered on the return voyage. So they're two different things, sometimes confused as being the same thing.
Yeah,
the
Jason
similarities.
Is the only. Jason's the only mortal. The only mortal, says Cersei again to reiterate, who has made it through the. I guess the Planctai, actually, the Wandering Rocks.
She says that in the Odyssey.
In the Odyssey, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it says here the similarities and differences between the Wandering Rocks and the Simpligades have been much debated by scholars, as have potential locations for them. So interestingly, Joyce, you know, apparently, even though it's not mentioned in the text, in his schema, he decided, okay, they're the same thing. The Planctai and the Simpligades are the same thing, and they were located basically in the strait of the Bosphorus.
Okay.
So if you're watching the slideshow, you can see, I think that's Jason. What they did is they sent a dove through these cliffs that were, you know, opening and closing, and they gauged the speed they would need to sail to get through there before getting crushed. So apparently that's how they did it.
Those are the Simpligades, or were those the Planctai?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. Maybe the Planctai. But anyway, after they made it through, supposedly they stopped, but that doesn't make sense, because if they stopped opening and closing, how come Odysseus and his people couldn't make it through there? Again, it's myth, doesn't have to make sense, so don't worry about it.
That's right.
All right, so here's the scene, the streets. This is an aerial view of Dublin in, I think this is the 40s or 50s, but maybe it looked similar in 1904. Looks a bit like a maze or a labyrinth.
Absolutely.
We've got an ensemble cast in this episode. Here's some of the people: the Very Reverend John Conmee, S.J., that's Society of Jesus, Bloom, of course, Steve-O, Simon, the Sisters Deadless, and a lot of other people that we'll discuss in
some
greater
unnamed,
detail.
The drunken one-legged sailor, the blind stripling, so some are unnamed, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the technique is labyrinth. You know, you could think of this episode as being a kind of maze. You know how in a maze or labyrinth there are a lot of wrong turns that you take? Do you notice this rhetorically, like in the style? Do you see these? I think of them as like false starts. I know you use a different term in the notes, like maybe from Gilbert, but to me it's like you go one path, oop, that's the wrong way, and then you retrace your steps.
Right.
Like there are sometimes these insertions. You think you're focused on one scene with a certain group of characters, and then there's mention of something happening elsewhere in the city, and it's a totally different character, and maybe it was referred to before, or it'll appear later. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Could that be? It's almost like jump cuts in a film, you know?
Absolutely.
Or, I don't know, flashbacks or flash forwards. Like, is he Why does he do that? Is it effective rhetorically?
It's
Is it interesting stylistically?
I think it goes back to that idea of temporal simultaneity that he's experimenting with. All these things, all these moments are happening within the same hour and sometimes overlapping, right? So when you're in, it's divided into those whatever 18 sections, right? Distinct little mini sections. So
Is
each
that
mini
how I
section,
didn't count them? They're
yes,
18, just
yes,
like the
yes,
book itself. Interesting.
right. And so
Ah,
when you're in one mini section, right? You get a trace or a detail from another one. You don't know it at the time yet, but a lot of times that little passing reference
yeah,
recurs later, maybe in a couple of other mini sections, and sometimes will be the central focus of that other section, right?
right.
So it's just it's technical standpoint, it is like a lot of shit to juggle, right? In terms of organizing this little uh 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 entr'acte, as he called it, this between the
Mm-hmm.
act little portrait of Dublin in the middle of the day, and we're midway through the day too, even though we have a lot more to read, right? We are like
Mm,
in episode 10, right?
yeah.
So yeah, it's an ingenious construction, I think.
Yeah. And because of all those, I don't know, wrong turns and flashbacks and flash forwards, it's sometimes difficult to understand what's going on, but we'll see if we can tease that out.
Awesome.
All right. So I wanted to mention something that I forgot to mention in the last episode, episode 9, the library, Scylla and Charybdis. We're starting to see some typographical um, innovations, or I don't know, elements to the book. This up at the top, if you're watching the slideshow, you can see the I guess the sheet music for Gloria in excelsis Deo, which is Stephen made a reference to that. And then at the bottom of the page on which that occurs, you've got this musical notation, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
an interesting element to the novel. I think this is something he got from Stern, the Tristram Shandy author. There are a lot of
Mm.
these I don't know, ludic elements. He's playing
Mm.
with the genre and with the novel, the conventions of the novel and writing in general. So
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, episode 9 was the first kind of typographical trickery of that sort. Was
Right.
there anything before that? I don't remember anything
Well, certainly, we
previous
could
to
go
that.
back when we discussed Aeolus, the newspaper
Okay.
episode,
Right, the
right?
headlines, sure.
That was a departure there in terms of
Yes,
using
yes, yes, that's
headlines
true.
for each of those like little mini sections, right?
Sure.
So
But that's still, I mean, okay, it is typographical, but it's still text based, right?
it
Like
is text based.
now we've got different font with the, Gloria in Excelsis Deo, but then with the musical notation, that's like an illustration. It's like,
It's like a collage like element, like a little
hmm,
visual. You put a visual snippet within the verbal text, right?
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
we
that's
were
definitely
we were
definitely
talking
an
about
innovation.
Sebald earlier with his,
Pictures.
he's got photographs throughout his narrative. So that's an
Mm-hmm.
important element to keep in mind. Now, in my hardcover edition of the text, each of these, as you say, 18 sections is headed with a white star like this.
Right.
I looked at my paperback version, doesn't have that. So
Hmm.
what's in your Random House Double J? Do you have stars at the top
Let's
of each
see
section?
here. Yes, I do. I have a
Okay.
little open star. Yep. So yeah,
Hmm.
and I counted
Interesting.
all the sections that I was going through, and then yep, we have
So
18
18
here.
stars. Ooh, so it
Indeed,
really is a
it's
mini. It's
it's a
Ulysses in
actually
miniature.
let me correct that. There's a 19th star. The Earl of Dudley's is the 19th,
Oh.
but it
Hmm.
was constructed. It was constructed as a miniature version of Ulysses for sure.
Hmm.
There's no doubt about
Okay. Well,
it.
18 plus 1 for good measure.
There we go.
It's like Macintosh showing up at the funeral, right? You had
Right.
You
The
had your
extra.
12, and there's always an extra one, right?
There's always the extra. No, that's absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting though that my paperback does not have the white stars, so I wonder if that was like I wonder why they made that editorial decision to not include those. I prefer the stars because it makes it more unique. Okay, so this is what we call the granite section of Wandering Rocks. Granite is hard, so
I'm granite, I suppose.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well,
right.
You're in charge of the granite section, so I've highlighted in red things that I think are particularly important. But I'll let you take this wherever you want to go with it.
I'll just I'll move kind of quick here through these big picture items, and I'll pause just for a couple of passages, and we could do a couple of things. But Joyce actually conceived of this episode as a entr'acte, right? A pause in the action, right? And it was sort of modeled after. Imagine going to those long sort of popular theatrical productions or vaudevilles or whatnot. They would oftentimes have these pauses in the actions, little show, right?
It's in the middle of the intermission, basically.
It's an intermission, right? And here's a little it's right in the middle of the book, right? When episode 10. Citing Gilbert, it was conceived as a small-scale model of Ulysses as a whole. And interestingly, Joyce said in a letter that this episode, and here's a quote, has, quote, absolutely no relation to what precedes or follows, end quote. And
which is bullshit.
To me, that is such a Joyce thing to say, because on the one level, it's true, and if you're thinking in terms of plot, right? But of course, this book is about much, much more than plot, right? So this is Joyce as I love him, a trickster, an ironist, etc. It's both a true and a not true statement, right? So kudos to Joyce for that. The art, the mechanics, the technique, labyrinth, the symbol, citizen, and just briefly on these things, we've already talked about, Dublin as a labyrinth, and the citizens are sort of seen as cogs in a kind of urban machine, mechanically linked, interconnected parts, right? And you think this is still the age of industrialism. We're not in the 1920s, the modern period. There are all these new industrial sort of devices and whatnot. So we've got that labyrinth, citizens as cogs things going. And it's composed of a series of mini portraits, mostly minor characters. Yes, we do see Bloom, we do see Stephen, but they're given no more attention than the other characters, and in fact, maybe even less than some of them. But so we get these suddenly: Martin Cunningham, Patrick Dignam, the Daedalus sisters, Boylan's secretary, Almedano Artifoni, right? Stephen's music teacher, drunken one-legged sailor, etc. Right? You have all these little mini portraits at this moment in time.
Yeah. Before we move on from this, the citizens are the Wandering Rocks, right?
Yes, the citizens are the Wandering Rocks.
What is he trying to tell us about Dubliners, right? They're dangerous. Yeah. Is he being misanthropic, Joyce? Like, is he saying, watch out for these people, they'll fuck you up, they'll ruin your life if you engage with them too closely.
And also, citizens,
there's something to be avoided, right? Like remember Stephen in Portrait, right? He bore his chalice through a throng of foes. Is that the line?
Right. That's right.
Is that what he's doing? You have to avoid all of these people that will cause you to stray from the path of whatever your, artistic or aesthetic goal or purpose is.
Yeah. And you can also say the rocks, they're rock-like in some sense. They're insentient on some level, perhaps, right? They're mechanical beings. I think that's part of it as well, right? But
what about that? Why is the art mechanics? I mean, Labyrinth, that makes sense. It's a maze. We already talked about that. The citizens, okay, they could be the Wandering Rocks. They're dangerous if you allow them to, involve you in their dramas or whatever. But the mechanics, that this has to do with it being like the industrial age, and like
I think so.
everyone's ground down by urban life.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I definitely felt the citizens were sort of cogs. There's this urban machine. These they're all interconnected in a kind of some level mechanical fashion, right? Um, and yet at the same time, we have the metaphor of the blood, right? The circulation through the body and the city, and so he's using a variety of images and metaphors to uh, evoke Dublin and its citizens at this point of day, right?
I'll have more to say about the blood later, so we'll save
Awesome.
that. But I don't know. I was just thinking of like, are the citizens also like gears in a machine that
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes rub against each other? Maybe.
yeah. And I think on a technical level, that also the parts or the gears that Joyce, the creator of the maze, is playing with. Joyce here
Yeah.
is Joyce is Daedalus, right? He
Mm-hmm.
is the major art. He is the artist. Remember, Daedalus was Icarus's father, and he created the maze, right? So
Yeah.
we have Joyce, the artificer here, who is using these different parts, these little characters. He doesn't have time to give them full elaboration because this is not really their story, but he gives within that he manages to flesh them out a little bit, and some of the portraits are really moving, like Patty Dignam's son,
Hmm.
really absolutely like moving, just quick moments where he's grieving for his father, right? So
I'm most interested in the Deadless sisters,
yeah,
but
exactly. This
we'll get to that. That whole
right.
family dynamic is interesting.
It's very interesting.
All right.
Something that Gilbert points out, which I think is that there are sometimes some false clues, false analogies. This goes back to what you were talking about, wrong turns in
Wrong
the
turns,
labyrinth, right?
absolutely, yeah.
So at one point, this is just one example. There are others. I think can't come to mind, but this is a really good one. As Almidano Artifoni, that's Stephen's music teacher, strode past Mr. Bloom's dental window, right? Just a little throwaway line. And because we're in the realm of Joyce, he's already trained us, if we've gotten this far, to think about associations and connections, right? And so we see Mr. Bloom's dental window. We think, wait, is Bloom so he's a dentist, right? And you've got that in your mind. And of course, that's not the case. It's a different Bloom, right? So we have those kinds of things happening, right? Which goes, again, back to your point of like these, you're in a maze, you're going somewhere, you hit a dead end, you have to
I didn't know how
rethink
to
or
take
reinterpret
that.
it.
So did you look that up in the GIF? Like there's a dentist named Bloom? Or is this just
Yes,
your...
I believe there was a dentist named. I'll have to look that up later. Maybe we can do that with the show notes. But I think Gifford will probably illuminate that some more, right?
I mean,
But I got that.
that would be more likely, but when I didn't, you know, obsess over this line, but I did wonder, like, what's that? Like Bloom, he passed Bloom and Bloom's smiling at him or something.
Right,
That's the
right,
dental
right.
window.
The
So
dental
that
window is an actual establishment. Yeah, like a dentist office.
okay, sounds like you looked that up, but maybe we can check
Yeah.
again for the show notes.
Well, I mean, in terms of what's literally happening, if you put this quote in context, Arpitifoni has just left Stephen, I think, right? He's
Right.
walking through Dublin and he passes by this dental window, right? One of the places he passes. So, but anyway, so false analogies, false clues. I got that from Gilbert, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
And he, also this idea, we've already talked about temporal simultaneity. And within that, we have these, what Gilbert calls interpolations and what Gifford calls intrusions. It doesn't matter what you call them, right? But the technique being used, right? So in all of these different moments throughout Dublin happening more or less at the same time, you have sometimes things that recur, like Elijah is coming. And I think you're probably going to talk more about this, but that's Bloom's throwaway, that handout he got from those evangelicals on the street from the Lestragonian episode. It's floating down the river, and it appears several times as one of these interpolations, intrusions in different parts of these of the labyrinth, right?
It's almost like one of the characters, the throwaway is almost one of the wandering rocks. It appears so many times,
right?
And we're preparing it, or he's preparing us for the whole Elijah motif in Cyclops.
Right,
I don't know
right.
why I keep forgetting the name of that episode, but yeah.
Yeah, and in Cyclops, yeah, exactly. Because remember, the throwaway is the literal Bloom's throwaway, but it's also
The
the
horse.
bet, right? That
Yeah.
people mistakenly think Bloom was recommending. And that's the horse that's actually going to win. So yeah, it's going to be a big plot point when we get to the Cyclops. All right. We also have book ending structurally. We have the sort of church and state represented, right? We begin with the Reverend Conmee, and then we end with the vice-regal cavalcade, which we have traces of that throughout the episode too, happening in these different moments. So we end with
I
the
hadn't
church
thought
and the
about
state.
that until I saw your notes. Was that your idea, or did you get that from?
It was probably one of those, probably from Gilbert or whatnot, right? But yeah, something.
I mean, that's almost like a Scylla and Charybdis situation too. You know,
Absolutely,
rocking a hard place. You got to avoid both as you go through these, or go through the strait of the Bosphorus. You know, metaphorically.
Right.
There's no answer either direction. The church and the state, they're both your enemies. Con me. That's a perfect name. He will con me if I listen to him.
So speaking of Conmee, right? Interestingly, that first section, if it represents the church at the beginning, right, of this labyrinth, we get a depiction of his very mild, bland faith, right? He seems to be a good man, but a kind of just bland man, right? No one who's inspiring. How would you pronounce that Latin there?
Well, if it's classical, where dignum et justum est.
That's right. It is indeed fitting and right. And that is basically Conmee's sort of theological view, right? He's just that everything is the making of the creator and so on. So within that, you get some some funny moments. I think they're kind of funny, right? He reflects on the souls of black and brown and yellow men, right? And he laments the fact that, alas, right, they were born pagans, right? So they're not going to have the chance to repent and become Christians. And so he's, his attitude there is like a kind of, I don't know, maybe paternalistic pity, kindly pity, right, for these unsaved souls. He reflects at one point on lust. I thought this is a good quote. Father Conmee thought of that tyrannous incontinence, needed, however, for men's race on earth, and of the ways of God which were not our ways. Right? So yes, sex is a tyrannous incontinence, but we have to propagate the species as Genesis asks us to. Again,
and of course, we wonder, how does Father Conmee deal with that tyrannous incontinence? He just ignores it. He suppresses it. He sublimates it.
Right. Exactly.
He has like his favorite clergyman whose room he visits on occasion.
Who knows?
He diddles little boys after
to say nothing of
convinces them to post letters for him.
What is Father Conmee's what are his outlets indeed? Anyway, so this is a good summing up quote, I think, right? He was their rector, his reign was mild, right? So
well, that's his opinion of himself. I mean, I don't find him so mild and bland. I find him, I won't go so far as to say evil, but he's like not a force for good. He's the opposite of that. He's part of the problem,
Right.
And maybe I'm prejudiced by his treatment of Stephen in Portrait, but this is not a good man,
I'm just saying he's a bland. There's a blandness to him, right? He's not inspiring in any way. But no, I think you're absolutely right. And just to remind folks about where we first see him, back in Portrait, Stephen gets maliciously bandied, his hands bandied, and this guy by I forget, Father Dolan, the sadistic Father Dolan, and he goes and tells Father Conmee, his superior, right, and what happened and how it was unfair, and he had done nothing wrong, and Conmee, kindly thanks him, right, and so on. And then later, Stephen overhears, I think, Conmee talking about his encounter with the protesting Stephen and kind of chuckling about it with some of his colleagues. So yes, this goes way back, right? You remember that scene from Portrait, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he doesn't really stand up. The point is, he doesn't really stand up for the injustice, right?
Of course not. He's all
So
about status quo, just
yeah,
the
he is.
church side of it. But the church side is allied with the state side. I mean, we'll talk more about him later, but we see him greet the wife of the MP. You know,
Right.
that's very important for him to maintain all those
what I think is
social
interesting
relations.
Is that Joyce's critique is so subtle, right? But and I love this line here. He was a rector; his reign was mild. Uh, you're right that you can read that as his thoughts, his sort of smug thoughts about himself, right? You know, I bring a calm and so on. But you can also read it as the narrator, third person narrator's very subtle irony, right? And poking at this man, right? He was a rector. His reign was mild, right? Something about the word mild, I think.
That's what he would. That's what he would say about himself. You know,
I know.
That's what
I think
people. That's how people
both,
like him justify.
No, of course,
their positions. It's like, well, at least I'm not like Father Dolan. I'm good. Right. I'm one of the good ones.
Right.
I really despise him, but you know,
I can see that. I can see that.
Maybe that's my issue. All right, moving on.
And then I just tried to pick out the things from the labyrinth, you know, that I found the most interesting because, again, there are 19 different pieces, right? There's no point in going through every single one. So one of the definite themes coming out is family trauma, and most of that comes from the lamentable state of the Daedalus family. And Simon here, right, he's a failed patriarch, right? This is one of the things that Stephen is dealing with, not just his mother's death. Now he's been back for a year in Ireland, but his father's irresponsibility, right? And so on, right? Booty Daedalus, one of the Daedalus sisters, right? During a scene where the girls are washing laundry, someone mentioned something about father, and she says, "Our Father who art not in heaven," right?
Hilarious.
And the other sister's like,
"Oh, you can't talk that way." One of the girls is like scandalized. What? How can you say that about our dear father?
Exactly. And then later,
there's always
in the scene,
one suck up, you know.
Yeah,
in the family.
Yeah. And the daughters are in desperate state, right? You know, Stephen's books are being pawned, right? Stephen runs into his sister Dilly later. I think it's Dilly, right? And
yeah,
they're pawning his books. So
she's the most interesting of the sisters.
Absolutely. But we get a snippet of Simon Daedalus, the patriarch, on the streets with Dilly, and Dilly is basically saying, you know, we need some money. Can you give us some money? And then he says to his daughter, "You're like the rest of them, are you? An insolent pack of little bitches since your poor mother died."
Our Father who art not in heaven.
Exactly. Our Father who art not in heaven. Interesting in that scene, you know, as shitty as he is there to her, right? He also can be charming, right? Because later she says, "Can't you look for some money somewhere?" Dilly said. Mr. Daedalus thought and nodded. "I will," he said gravely. "I looked all along the gutter in O'Connell Street. I'll try this one now." "You're very funny," Dilly said, grinning. So, you know, he's just called her an insolent little bitch, but here he also has his charm, as a lot of abusers can, right? I mean, he's a wreck of a man himself. But did you want to say anything about do you want to wait and say more about the Daedaluses later? But
yeah, I'll save that for later.
But anyway, you know, it's the family's in shitty shape. We really see it in this interlude, right? And I paired that with Patrick Dignam's grief. That is Paddy Dignam, the dead man's son, right? And Joyce just does a great job of sort of the vernacular, the sort of working class Dublin boy. He's excited about he's thinking in his mind about a boxing match that he really wants to see how great that would be. But then you have these moments of pathos where he is thinking about his father and grieving his father's death. And then we move on to another wandering, right? So again, within this maze, the mechanics, all that, Hogs, we do have these moments of humanity, right? You know, and the state of Dubliners are, at least here, right, pretty grim. The other thing that stood out for me was we get Mulligan and Haynes. Remember, those were Haynes is the Englishman from chapter 1, and here's Mulligan and Haynes in the middle of the day. I think they're having tea, and they're having snacks. Mulligan loves to eat. Have you noticed that? He's always eating stuff, right? Putting food in his mouth, right? So we get a portrait of them, and they shit talk Daedalus, right? Haynes kind of says, "Oh man, I missed Daedalus's Hamlet theory, huh?" From the previous chapter. And Haynes says, "Shakespeare is the happy hunting ground of all minds that have lost their balance," which I think is funny. And there is some truth to that. Stephen is kind of crazed in many ways, right? But they're also shit talking him, right? And then Mulligan says on Daedalus, they drove his wits astray by visions of hell. He will
Meaning
never capture
the Jesuits.
The Jesuits, right? He will never capture the Attic note. That is his tragedy. He can never be a poet.
Like he can, like Mulligan can, right?
Right. But the Attic note, right? Remember in the beginning, Mulligan says to Stephen that we're going to Hellenize the island, and now he's snoodily saying that no, he's never going to make it, right? He's too fucked over by
a
religion.
Yates wannabe. That's what Mulligan is.
Yeah. He's never going to escape the trap of his Catholicism, essentially. And then Mulligan says on when or if Daedalus will ever publish anything, right? He says this, 10 years, he said, chewing and laughing. He's eating food, right? He's going to write something in 10 years. So apparently he's saying, yeah, that's what Daedalus told me, that in 10 years he's going to write something. This takes place in 1904, and Joyce ends up publishing Doublishers in 1914. So who got the last laugh there, motherfucker? Anyway,
yeah, that's interesting.
Struck me, this was a funny scene to me. These two friends shit talking the other friend, who's one of the main characters. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
Well, I'm just thinking of these dates. 10 years after 1904, he publishes Dubliners, and then Ulysses comes in 1922. Which is,
it had come in installments, but yeah, that comes out finally in 22.
Yeah. Right? All right, moving on.
We have an interesting juxtaposition, right? We have a scene in which Boylan is in the shop, kind of charming the shop lady, and he's ordering a basket to be sent to a certain somebody, right? That somebody is Molly, right? So he's getting a little present for his mistress, right? And then Bloom later on we see, right, happening I guess pretty much around the same time. He's in a little bookshop looking for a book for Molly. He's always thinking about getting her garters, getting her cream. Here he's so dutiful. It's incredible. And he finds a book called The Sweets of Sin, right?
A torn bodice romance, as they call it.
That's right. He's like, yeah, she'll like this. So he gets her The Sweets of Sin, which is of course hilarious and apt in so many ways. The Sweets of Sin. The cuckold himself is buying the woman something. The inevitability of the of those two getting together. So we got that stood out to me. Lenehan. Do you remember Lenehan from earlier? From Aeolus?
From Aeolus. Yeah.
Why don't we talk a little? What are your thoughts about when you think about Lenehan?
He's the one that was making all those bad jokes, which are actually pretty entertaining. He had the limerick, right, about the professor.
Right. Yeah, and he's got a kind of funny but sort of slime ball quality to him.
Yeah,
he is talking to McCoy, right, on the streets, and McCoy is who Bloom ran into earlier. Do you remember? Anyway, McCoy has also a wife who is a singer, like Molly is a singer, right? But anyway, runs into McCoy, and he's recounting this scene where he was in I guess a carriage with Bloom and with Molly, right?
Yep.
And he is like bumping into her while Bloom is sitting there pontificating on the stars, pointing out the stars. I'll read this quote here. Lenehan says, "Every jolt the bloody car gave, I had her bumping up against me. Hell's delights. She has a fine pair, God bless her."
Now, what does he mean by that? A fine pair?
Her tits. He's like, yeah, right. And then the next thing, the lad stood to attention anyhow.
Now, what does he mean by that?
So
what is this lad?
This lad stood to attention. So I'll just finish the quote. She has a fine pair, God bless her. The lad stood to attention anyhow. She's a gamey mare, and make no mistake, Bloom was pointing out all the stars and comets in the heavens to Chris Callahan and Jarvie, but by God, I was lost, so to speak, in the Milky Way. So just a lech, right? And he sees that McCoy, who he's talking to, gets kind of uncomfortable with that, and then changes his tune from this kind of lustful, oh man, I was like feeling her body, she's so hot. Then he says about Bloom, right? He's a cultured all-round man, Bloom is. There's a touch of the artist about old Bloom, right? So
Ulysses, Odysseus.
We've seen that, right? He is different from others, and so on. But again, this is yet another treacherous suitor, quote unquote, because how many men so far, going through the book, we've seen it in Hades, we've seen it in other episodes where men are commenting on Molly, lusting after her, talking about her body. So she is known around town as a hot thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
A gamey mare with a fine pair. I was lost in the Milky Way, etc., etc.
Let's just say it. She's a MILF.
She is. Yeah, that's right. She inspires lust in all the men. Well, she's a siren. We've talked about one of the ways to think about her, right? In Calypso, she's the bewitching nymph Calypso in book 4. So we see that. We also see Bloom's generosity, right? When he's talking to some other men about the Dignam family fund. Remember, Patty Dignam died and left a widow with all these children, big Irish families. They're in, they're in financial straits. There's a family fund, and Bloom has not only signed up for it, he's already donated the money, right? And I think some men comment on that, right? So he is generous in a way that others aren't. And then what else do I got? Let's see. We can move on.
I think that's it for Granite.
That's it. So yeah, this is a good episode too. It is kind of a pause, right? But there's a lot that you can pull out and think about, and you can. There's foreshadowing. There's juxtapositions. Bloom continues to be developed, right? In these moments, right, as both a cuckold and as well as a devoted husband, and as someone who is generous in a way that other men are not generous, right? So we do have this very full-bodied, fully developed man.
He's a cultured, all-round man.
That Bloom is. That's right. All right, take it away, Marble.
Again, that's it's referring back to that first line of the Odyssey where Odysseus is described as polytropos, right? He's a man of many turns, twists and turns.
Twists and turns.
I was just going to say, remember, McCoy is the one that Bloom, if we're reading it, or if I'm reading it correctly, suspects might be a little bit interested in members of his own sex.
Oh, that's right. That's right, as well. Right.
So that could be why he's uncomfortable hearing about all this talk of Molly being a hot number, It's like, I'm not really into that guy. All right. So we start with this fucking guy, Father Conmee.
You really do hate him, don't you?
Yeah. He is a real person. This is a real picture of the guy, Father John Conmee. It was an actual historical figure. Interesting that he didn't change the name. I guess he wasn't worried about
He's been doing that, right? He's been inserting historical figures.
Sure, but he also, bases certain other characters on people. Maybe, like, he doesn't change the names of these so-called public figures.
The Theosophists, their names are the librarian.
Yes, of course.
Right.
They're public figures, so they're part of the, public domain, and they're fair game. But like friends and acquaintances, he's got to give, pseudonyms to.
Anyway, is Mulligan, etc.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a real person. There's his monk,
superior, the very Reverend John Conmee, S.J., Society of Jesus. So I was just focusing on like little descriptions that might help us flesh him out. He's got a smooth watch, a silk hat. When he goes, in this picture, he's wearing like his priestly hat, I guess. But when he goes out in public, he looks like a I don't know, a successful businessman with his smooth watch and silk hat. Towards him came the wife of Mr. David Sheehy, MP. So he's got to make sure to greet her and ask about the boys at Belvedere, which I guess is the private school connected to his parish or whatever, his church.
He's definitely, and in fairness, he does stop and talk to a lot of different people. But yeah, he's very much like the public man, right? He is a part of the community and wants to extend his graces to everybody.
Sure, he stops and talks to the wife of the MP, but the the blind the one-legged sailor rather makes him uncomfortable, it seems to me.
Right.
I thought this was interesting. Father, you mentioned the one about the black and brown and yellow people. Well, here's another. Father Conmee reflected on the providence of the Creator, who had made turf to be in bogs where men might dig it out and bring it to town and hamlet to make fires in the houses of poor people. So it all works out, right? It's everything is whatever is right.
Exactly.
God made the world, and we can't change it. It's perfect, right? The poor people have turf for fires, so it's all good.
He's very comfortably complacent, isn't he?
Yes.
In his worldview, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's going to stir him. His serenity.
Father Conmee liked cheerful decorum. I thought that was the perfect description of his character, right? Like,
right.
He wants everyone to behave properly in public,
And the poor, we will show them our pity, but we're not going to really try to change the world, right? We're just going to, this is the world we have. It's all fine, right?
And when he thinks of the one-legged sailor, he remembers something Cardinal Newman said, right? If I had served my God as faithfully as I had served my king, I wouldn't have, I would have avoided disaster, or whatever the implication is.
Right.
I thought this was hilarious. Who could know the truth? He's thinking about I think it's the wife of Mr. Belvedere, who's like the benefactor of the school, right? Who could know the truth? Not the jealous Lord Belvedere, and not her confessor, if she had not committed adultery fully. And he uses the technical term ejaculatio seminis inter vas naturale mulieris, with her husband's brother. That the translation would be ejaculation of semen between the natural member of the female.
Yeah, very, very sort of scientifically precise, right?
Yes.
But, no, it's hilarious. Like, okay, and this is sort of the pedantry of Jesuit thinking, right?
Absolutely.
But
did he bust a nut in her female part? If not, then it's not really adultery.
Adultery full is, yes, exactly, when when you completely ejaculate in somebody.
I remember you told me your dad once said something like, what was the phrase he used? It's not a mortal sin, right? No es pecado mortal or something.
It's a venal, yeah, that's right, venial sin. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, at one point he's called Don John Conmee. I wasn't sure what that was about. I've got the same line about his reign being mild. Okay, this is important. He mentions nones. It's not nuns, Nones, but nones. That is actually the time of day now. Nones means ninth. 3 p.m. is actually the ninth hour of the day. If the day starts at 6 a.m., then 3 p.m. is the ninth hour. So it's appropriate that he's reading that from his breviary or whatever, his daily liturgy, right?
Right.
The Vespers come later, that's in the evening, but the nones is the part that you read at 3 p.m. because it's the ninth hour.
Right.
And then after he gets off the tram, Father Conmee walked through Conglow's fields, his thin-socked ankles tickled by stubble. And he has an interesting encounter there, which we'll get to presently. But I thought the thin socks were interesting, right? Like he's He's got his silk hat, his watch, and his thin socks.
Mm-hmm.
What a guy. I hate him even more. All right, so Bloom, of course, appears. And again, remember, he was like a shadowy figure, a ghost in the library.
Mm-hmm.
Here, he's
Right.
described as a dark-backed figure twice. Under Merchant's Arch, scanned books on the hawker's car. A dark-backed figure scanned books on the hawker's cart. So it's car and cart. I don't know. Later, he's seen, ooh, there he is. They're pointing him out. Wonder what he is buying. Leopoldo or the Bloom is on the rye. That's probably a Linehan joke. He's dead nuts on sales. He likes to find bargains, right? So he's looking for discounted books.
These are the men talking about him when they see him. That's an interesting moment.
And just as Haynes and Mulligan are shit talking Steve-O, Bloom is getting shit talked as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're giving him his due, I guess, but mostly they're having fun at his expense, making jokes at his expense. Sweets of Sin, we already talked about. I see Bloom put his name down for 5 shillings, which leads, is it Linehan? Probably so. I'll say there is much kindness in the Jew, which I think is a merchant of Venice. Of Venice reference, yes.
Interesting. A lot of the quotes here are other people observing Bloom and talking about Bloom, right?
Yeah.
I think that's important, right? Is another way to flesh out the character and also reveal, obviously, the prejudice of a lot of these Irishmen.
But there's also a kind of reverence, There he is. It's Ulysses. It's Odysseus,
Yeah.
Like the hero, the hero and the villain, or the hero and the goat, they're often interchangeable. There's something that sets him apart, whether he's being shamed or lauded.
Right.
All right. I don't know if you noticed this. It took me a couple of times to figure out that this has to be Molly, right?
It is Molly. Yeah.
A generous white arm from a window in Eccles Street flung forth a coin. And this is the
drunken sailor, I think, right? He's begging too, right? And he's walking by her window, and all we see is this generous white arm, right?
In Eccles Street. So there's the first clue.
Right.
Then we get a card: unfurnished apartment slipped from the sash and fell. A plump, bare, generous arm shone, was seen, held forth from a white petticoat bodice and taut shift straps. That's a nice description. A woman's hand flung forth a coin over the
railings.
Railings. I don't know why. I think there's a typo there. Over the railings.
Clarify the context for that real fast. What's happening here? Just is that also with the drunk sailor walking down the street?
It's the same.
This? Okay.
Yeah, it's it's one of these false. What did we call them? Interpolations, or wrong turns or whatever. Insertions. Yeah. Molly's gonna get her insertion later.
Generous white arm, a plump bear. Generous arm, plump bear. Yeah,
and then here's, I guess, the verification. A card: unfurnished apartments reappeared on the window sash of number 7 Eccles Street. So we know that's their address, right? Are they trying to rent a room? Why is there this sign? I mean, this is the first I've heard of that. Unfurnished apartments. What's going on there?
Slipped from the sash and fell. Is that a different apartment?
I think it's got to be. Well, yeah.
We'll have to look at that later, I think.
I think that's their. It's number 7.
So they're renting a room.
I would think so. That's how I took it. But yeah, again, it's not fully explained. But after reading several times, that's what I concluded. They've got a sign advertising unfurnished apartments. Maybe now that Millie is gone, these names are so funny. Molly, Millie, Dilly, Booty,
Booty,
Katie,
Daedalus,
Maggie.
That's right.
So all of the and it's all one big family in a way. But so Millie has left. Do they have an extra room that they're trying to let?
Yeah, that must
Room
be
for
it. Yeah,
let.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it in context too. Right.
So the
That must be it.
sign, the sash, the sign slips from the sash and
Yeah,
falls as
Millie is living
she's
in Mulligar. Yeah.
right. So as she's trying to toss the coin out the window, the sign falls, then it reappears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so now we get to the sisters' dead list. We got Katie and Booty. We got Maggie. I think, is it Booty is the one that says, "Crikey, is there nothing for us to eat?" She's pissed off about it, right? And then
Yeah, she's not happy at all. Yeah.
the other
And
one's like, "Pea soup."
they're eating pea soup. The Deadless
Yeah,
sisters are eating pea soup. They're starving.
they got some
Right.
bread. They do have some
Yeah,
bread.
yeah.
All right, our Father who art not in heaven. You already mentioned that. All right, Dilly. She's probably the most important of the sisters. She's the one that confronts Simon, who says, stand up straight for the love of the Lord Jesus. So I don't know, she has like her shoulders, she's like stooping, or how would you
Mm-hmm.
describe that? She doesn't have perfect posture, I guess,
That's
right?
right.
So her
That sounds like
father
a
is like ridiculing her, like, you want to be like this? I think he actually mocks
punches
her,
over. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a dick.
he's a dick. And
He's such a dick to his daughters.
but it does kind of amuse her. But it's interesting. She says, "Do you get any money? You better give me the money." He's like, "This is all I got." She's like, "I know you have more."
Yeah. And you can tell that's a routine that she's experienced probably dozens of fucking time, particularly more with the mom's death, right?
Hmm.
The mom is not there to kind of hold together the family in any way. So,
So
yeah.
do we think, is she the oldest? And also my other question is, are they all girls except for Stephen? How many
That's what
sisters
it
are
sounds
there?
like. I think there was a. Joyce obviously had a brother, Stanislaw.
Right.
But right now, I'm trying to think if there's any reference to a brother in Ulysses thus far, and I don't think there is. So here we just have a portrait of all this: Katie, Booty, Maggie, and Dilly.
So four girls
Sisters.
and Stephen.
Or as Mr. Daedalus calls him, Simon, the little pack of bitches.
Yeah. I think there are more.
Fucking
I think
asshole.
there might be more, but
I mean,
anyway.
these are big families, right? Irish. Bloom comments on that pretty comically, to me at least, several times about these Irish families and the huge Irish families and how ridiculous it is to have that many children.
They can't use contraception, so
you can't feed them all, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So
potatoes and Marge and potatoes. They can't even afford that. It's pea soup and bread.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, that leads us into Stephen, who I mean, I think he's the firstborn. It would seem he's the elder brother of all these girls, sisters. So, I wasn't sure what was going on here. Stephen Deadless watched through the webbed window. The lapidary's fingers prove a time-dulled chain. He's trying to pawn a watch chain, is it? Is that what's going on? And while he's watching this, there's an interesting little passage, which is very poetic. I'm going to read it quickly. Let's see if we can make sense of it. Like, where does this come from? She dances in a foul gloom where gum burns with garlic. A sailor man, rust-bearded, sips from a beaker rum and eyes her. A long and sea-fed silent rut. She dances, capers, wagging her sowish haunches and her hips, on her gross belly, flapping a ruby egg. What is that?
I'm looking at mine, and I have just in the margins, mother ? Right? Because we've seen at least the beginning, Stephen's haunted by his mother's sort of spirit, but this seems like something out of Circe, doesn't it? Something of
exactly. It's like
she
dances, one
of
these
capers, wagging her sowish haunches on her hips.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely, seems to foreshadow that, like some lewd, wanton,
lewd, wanton femininity. Yeah, and we know that's
But out of context here, it's like, where does it come from? And then immediately after that, he thinks, I mean, I guess this is all Stephen's internal
It is.
imagining.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Old Russell with a smeared chamois rag burnished again his gem, turned it and held it at the point of his Moses beard. Grandfather ape gloating on a stolen hoard. Is this A.E., that Russell, George Russell, or the guy that's appraising the watch chain? Like,
right.
He's associating him with A.E.? I don't get it. I mean, we need some help there, but I don't know if Gifford said anything.
That because the very next brief paragraph, and you who wrest old images from the burial earth, the brain-sick words of sophists and Tisthenes, a lore of drugs, orient and immortal wheat, standing from everlasting to everlasting. We're in Stephen's head again, obviously. We know that, and this kind of takes us back to the often opaque impenetrability of
Proteus, episode 3.
Right? So here we are back in this fucking mind again. This fucking guy, and all his sort of poetic associations. Anyhow.
Yeah, it's a great passage. I just don't know what he's on
That's
about.
Right. That's right.
Very Protean. But again,
doesn't it sound like it sounds a little like Baudelaire and this kind of decadent sort of imagistic poetry, right?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, very decadent.
Which Joyce would have known about, right?
Right. From his Parisian days and his reading. Yeah, and again, there's Antisthenes. That reference was definitely in Library. And I think before that too. Oh yeah, Aeolus, right? He was
at the end of Aeolus.
The professor was like, "You're like Antisthenes," you know.
Antisthenes was a cynic.
Yeah.
Right. So the cynical.
Do you hate yourself more than you hate mankind? Like, are you more of a misanthrope or a self-hater?
Mm-hmm.
So he runs into Dilly at the book cart.
He runs into his sister
or whatever, right. And she very shyly has this French primer, I guess, and he's like, she's like embarrassed, like, "Oh, is this any good?" And you know, he's like, don't. He's telling himself, don't make her feel ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Oh, you want to learn French? And she's laughing like, I think I do. You know, she's kind of. Maybe she's inspired by her elder brother, who's so bookish and
that's
learned,
what I was thinking.
Know? Yeah,
it's a really touching.
It is
snippet,
touching,
right? And it's very brief, but I mean, this is in keeping with a book. I mean, with a chapter, right? These little snippets, these little quick shots of Dublin at this point. This one's a really moving one.
And so Stephen feels the guilt, right? She is drowning. Agenbite, save her. Agenbite. Agenbite of Inwit, Inwit's Agenbite. Of course, that's remorse of conscience, right?
Right.
The feeling of guilt that we've seen that
he's
phrase many
overwhelmed,
times.
And then right after that, the last paragraph, last two words of the section: misery. And Stephen, and think about what's happened. He's seen his sister, and right before that, right? You know, she says, "Yeah, I'm kind of do want to learn French." He knows how shitty the situation at home is. And she notices that they're pawning some of his. He says, "I suppose all my books are gone." And she says, "Some." Billy said, "We had to." That's so moved. We had to, Stephen, right? You know. And then he's like, "Fuck, my family is so fucked right now." So
he keeps repeating we.
It's not just her; it's we, the family. It's the state of the family that's just a wreck right now.
But I mean, he thinks that so ironically because he is a part of the family, but also he's not, and he knows he won't remain. You know, he's not.
Right.
You know, he's gonna go do his own thing in the world, and oh well, too bad. Agenbite of Inwit, but
he's
life goes on.
He feels tremendous guilt, right?
All right, so that leads us to Simon, the
patriarch,
ridiculous patriarch, who tells the girls, the insolent pack of bitches or whatever, "I'll leave you all where Jesus left the Jews." So another hilarious Simonism, you know.
So that's a reference. What scene in the Bible is that a reference to? The Jews, the money lenders out there in the streets?
No.
Or what?
Jesus came for those who acknowledge
Right.
him as their savior, right? The Jews,
Mm-hmm.
they don't get to go to heaven, right? They're missing
Right.
out on that great deal. They don't
That's
accept
right.
that bargain because he's not their Messiah. So I'll leave you all where Jesus left the Jews. So another, one among many references to Judaism and its relation to Catholicism and Christianity and Bloom and Stephen and all of that.
Right.
Um, I thought this line was so callous, get a glass of milk for yourself and a bun or a something. He drops a couple of pennies in her hand.
Yeah.
And the implication is like, don't tell your sisters, right? I don't have enough for
Right.
all of you bitches. So since you came out here, go get a glass of milk and a bun. Like, that's it?
Yeah.
How about a steak, Simon? No, a bun. A glass of milk and a bun or a something. What the fuck?
And as she told him, right, I know you have more money, you fucking asshole. You're drinking all day, right?
Yeah.
All our money is just going down your throat in alcohol.
Yeah. Here's another funny Simonism when Ben Dollard, remember bass barrel tone Ben Dollard rolls up. There he is, by God, he said. Arson pockets. And then
Ben Dollard will be one of the singers, as will Simon, in the upcoming Simon's episode.
Yes, indeed. And Ben Dollard says something like, he can put that where Jacko put the nuts, whatever that means, right? Yeah. And Simon says, Filberts, I believe they were, like, so random.
What does that even mean?
Filberts, they're a kind of nuts.
Oh, right? Okay, gotcha.
Like, he could have easily said, cashews, I believe they were.
Right.
Peanuts, it's like that hilarious Dublin speech of the common people.
Right. How the way that Joyce has developed this character largely just by the shit he says, right? Is ingenious to me, right?
That's his saving grace, like he's a piece of shit otherwise, but
he'll make you laugh.
Even Bloom acknowledges that, right? Like he constantly says, "Oh, he has a way with words, or the way he phrases things, so clever."
And interestingly, we'll talk more about this in Sirens. He's a fucking hell of a singer.
Just he's like a good singer.
Right? Yeah, right. And he like moves men, right, with his singing. All right.
So now we come to Boylan. There are just some, random things he said. Of course, the most important thing is the red carnation that he puts between his teeth, right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes me think of the blood.
Well, clarify the scene for that. Just that.
Well, okay, so you've already mentioned how he's like buying gifts, which are
he's at a shop
to be delivered for or to the invalid, which is Molly, right? Mm-hmm. So he sees a flower, a red carnation, and he takes it and he says to the girl in the shop, "This for me?" And she's embarrassed and perhaps she's also a bit creeped out, but she's like, "Okay, whatever." And he puts it between his teeth. Meanwhile, he's like ogling her cleavage, he's looking in her blouse and shamelessly flirting with this much younger female, right? And that'll do, game ball. He calls her game ball. I mean, can you get away with that today? Can you imagine going into a shop and talking to the millennial or the Zoomer girl behind the counter? Thanks a lot, game ball. What?
Yep.
It's for an invalid, he said. We already mentioned that. Blazes Boylan looked into the cut of her blouse, this young lady. He took a red carnation from the tall stem glass, his tie a bit crooked. Blazes Boylan looked in her blouse with more favor, the stalk of the red flower between his smiling teeth. Like, he's pretty bold, isn't he?
He's very bold. And it's a amongst these fat pears and blushing peaches. Everything is kind
Yeah,
of
the way she arranges the fruit is very sexual.
everything is very charged here in this scene. Yeah.
Master Master Dignam
So
later, we talked about him. He saw a red flower in a toff's mouth. That's from his perspective. Oh, look at that
right.
fucking toff over there with a red flower. And a
Yep.
swell pair of kicks on him, but he likes his shoes.
Right.
Stepping in tan shoes and socks with sky blue clocks to the refrain of "My girl's a Yorkshire girl." You mentioned the sky blue clocks on his
The
socks
level of
before.
specificity here and the depiction of this usurper, dandy, the tan shoes, the socks. I just love the sky blue socks with sky blue clocks. He has these.
Where would he get those? I mean, that's
Exactly.
tan shoes. Okay. So very colorful. You got the red and the blue. Blazes Boylan presented to the leaders sky blue. I think that's supposed to be frontlets. I've got a couple of typos in here. And high action, a sky blue tie, a wide brimmed straw hat at a rakish angle, and a suit of indigo serge. His hands in his jacket pockets he didn't forgot, his hands forgot to salute. But he offered to the three ladies the bold admiration of his eyes and the red flower between his lips. So he's even like gazing at these society ladies, you know?
Right.
It's like, you want to get with this?
He is not going to be faithful in any way to Molly. Is just one of various women he's interested in. Yeah, he's a complete god.
Yeah. What was the name of the suitor? The main suitor, the guy played by Eric Roberts, I think, in the
Antinous.
Anti-Mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
All right. So there is a poster. Did you notice this? A poster of a Marie Kendall, who is actually also a real person, a music hall singer and celebrity. And so several references to this. The large poster of Marie Kendall, charming soubrette. It's always mentioned. She's always mentioned with that phrase. Marie Kendall, charming soubrette, smiled on them from a poster, a dauby smile. The image of Marie Kendall, charming soubrette, beside the two puckers. Those are the boxers. Apparently, boxers are called puckers. A charming soubrette, this time italicized for some reason. Marie Kendall with dauby cheeks and lifted skirt. Not in this picture of her. Smiled daubily from her poster. So again, we were reminded of the whores of Circe. You know, we've got Molly in her petticoat, whatever. Here's another seductive female.
I looked it up, soubrette, and the definition is a stock comedy character in theater and opera, typically a playful, flirtatious, and cunning maidservant. And apparently the term soubrette is a French word that means maid, but obviously with
French maid, we know how they are.
Yeah, a saucy and lively young woman, right? So
yeah, and we had that that word from the last episode, giglet, right? Giglot, giglet.
Right. That's right.
That's basically the same thing as a soubrette. I have to make that connection. Soubrette is equivalent to giglet.
Was that from the previous episode?
Yeah.
Or was that from which episode?
Library, Scylla and Charybdis.
Right.
Yeah, okay, the giglet, right?
The giglet.
Giglet wanton, I think was the phrase.
Right.
So here we've got charming soubrette, which is similar, right?
And
by the way, we had the reference to adultery. Remember the ejaculatio and all of that. Again, a woman who is unfaithful to her married partner, her husband, right? So cuckoldry everywhere with these gamey, what is it? What was a gamey mare, right?
Right.
All
exactly.
Right. So there is a young man and young woman, a couple that Conmy first encounters, and they appear several times throughout this episode as well. I only included the first one, but it says a flushed young man came from a gap of a hedge, and after him a young woman with wild nodding daisies in her hand. The young man raised his cap abruptly. This is to con me. The young woman abruptly bent and with slow care detached from her light skirt a clinging twig. I don't know about you, but I think these two were having a roll in the heather.
Oh, they certainly were. They certainly were. And, we find out later, right, that this young man coming out with this young woman is Stephen's friend from Portrait. This is Lynch.
Really?
Coming out of, yes, because
when do we find that out?
I just reread Oxen of the Sun, and you remember Oxen of the Sun, you got all the medical students and other hangers on who are getting drunk in the lobby. And Lynch comes in and talks about this moment where he and his girl come out of the bushes running into Father Conmee.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not remember that.
I didn't either until I read it.
Does he specify what they were doing in the bushes there?
Oh
man, he
gets into it. Yeah, listen, you want to hear it right now a little bit?
Yeah.
This is him, and I forgot what stylistic innovation this in, but this is about Lynch. She had not for her teeth, but the arm with which I held her, and in that she nibbled mischievously when I pressed too close. Later we hear, mad romp that it is, she had pulled her fill as we reclined together. There'll be, and then he says, and in your ear, my friend, you will not think who met us as we left the field. Conmee himself. He was walking by the hedge reading, I think, a brevier book with, I doubt not, a witty letter in it from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, this is later when the guys are drunk in the lobby.
Oh, that's
Miss
great.
Purefoy is having a baby, and the nurse is coming in, remember, trying to get him to shut up, and they're talking about, this is the moment where some of the guys are talking about their exploits, and Lynch is talking about, holy shit, we came out of the bushes and we ran into Conmee.
At 3 p.m. today.
That's right, at 3 p.m. That's pretty brazen, isn't it?
I'm going to have to put Fucking in the Bushes in the playlist. You know that Oasis song?
No, I don't.
I think it's an instrumental.
All right. So there's the young man, young woman. Our boy Lynch.
That is fascinating. All right.
Yeah, right.
So Haynes and Mulligan, you've talked about them already. I just thought it was interesting what they ordered. Two melanges. I think those are like lattes, basically. It's like a mixed coffee drink. And bring us some scones and butter and some cakes as well.
Dude loves to eat.
We call it DBC because they have damn bad cakes. Haynes sang. I don't know why I focus on this. It's just such a great description. Haynes sank 2 lumps of sugar deftly longwise through the whipped cream. Buck Mulligan slit a steaming scone in 2 and plastered butter over its smoking pith. I love that.
Joyce's particularity in phrasing is just deftly longwise. It's smoking pith, right?
Yeah, smoking pith.
Slit a steaming scone.
You can see it.
Right. It's fantastic.
Cashel Boyle, O'Connor, Fitzmaurice, Tisdall, Farrell.
So tell us very briefly, who is this guy again?
Well, this is that guy that I guess he has OCD. He only walks on one side of the street lamps or whatever.
He's got like a walking stick and an umbrella in the crook of his arm. He's the town eccentric.
Either a glass eye or a monocle.
Right.
Yeah, he's the village. Yeah, not village idiot, or maybe he is, but he's an eccentric for sure. And Bloom, when he meets Mrs. Breen, right? He's like, watch him. So we've seen this guy before. He's glass-eyed with stick umbrella dust coat dangling. So he's carrying a bunch of unnecessary shit, apparently. With rat's teeth bared, he muttered, "Coactus wallowy." I don't know why he's saying that. It means compelled, I wanted. It's like a legal term. Like even if you're forced, you can still give consent. I don't know what he's talking about. But here's the important part. The sway of his dust coat brushed rudely from its angle a slender tapping cane, and swept onwards, having buffeted a thewless body. So this is the blind stripling, right?
Right.
God's curse on you, he, the blind stripling, said sourly. Whoever you are, you're blinder nor I am, you bitches bastard.
So they run into each other, right? This is a moment where
Yeah.
two of the wandering rocks run into each other.
There's a clashing of rocks.
And
But
the blind stripling, we will meet him again in the upcoming
Sirens.
episode.
Sirens. I'm
He's
saying
a piano
siren because
he's
tomorrow
a piano tuner.
Yes, right. And we saw him before. Remember, Bloom helped him cross the street in
Right.
Lestragonians, I want to say.
That's right.
So yeah,
just pausing briefly on that, the way that Joyce is engineering all of these different parts, not just within this episode, but throughout the episodes, even little ones like this bride stripling wandering the streets. Bloom helps him out. He runs into the eccentric here, and then later he walks in to be the piano tuner in the bar where the men sing.
In Sirens, yeah. Almost said siren because that's tomorrow's podcast when my friend Craig and I focus on Roxy Music's Siren.
All right.
So stay tuned for that, audio files. All right. Anyway, just quickly to get through these other minor characters. Corny Kelleher, we knew him from mostly Hades. He arranged the funeral, but here we see Father Conmee past H.J. O'Neill's funeral establishment where Corny Kelleher totted figures in the daybook while he chewed a blade of hay. Before we saw his drooping eye, remember that? But the new feature or I don't know, characteristic is he likes to chew on grass. This reminds me of men of my father's generation. We would have these block parties. All the parents would sit outside in lawn chairs as the kids would ride their bikes up and down the street. And a lot of the men would chew on these long stems of grass and then, spit. Did you ever see that?
I don't think so,
the boomer generation.
Yeah. Well, my Latino families, we'd get together for those things. I don't remember anyone chewing on grass.
Yeah.
As my father says, that sounds like a yancada, my father might say.
Yeah, probably. So anyway, there's a Constable 57C on his beat, stood to pass the time of day. He's talking to Corny Kelleher. And then he says, I seen that particular party last evening, the constable said with bated breath. Not clear what they're talking about. Maybe that's a question for the gift, but sounds like what? Did they visit someone at Bella Cohen's, maybe? Who's that particular party? I wonder.
I've seen that particular party last evening, the constable said. What is
with bated breath.
Right. Maybe for later. Yeah. But yeah, I had to look at, this guy is basically just an assistant at O'Neill's funeral parlor, right?
Corny or
Corny
the constable? Yeah, we knew that about him from Hades, right? Because he's the one that arranged. Remember, they were complaining about the carriage they were in. They were like crumbs or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the hell, Corny? Anyway, Ben Dollard. They're kind of clowning on him for his attire. And he says, why, God eternally curse your soul. I threw out more clothes in my time than you ever saw. Bad luck to the Jew man that made them, Ben Dollard said. Thanks be to God he's not paid yet. So it's like these Catholic guys are admitting, they're being hounded by their Jewish creditors, but they never pay them, It's like, maybe you shouldn't have made the deal. Okay, maybe there's some usury going on, but why did you sign whatever you signed, agreeing to pay whatever amount in interest, Like you buy all this shit on credit, and then when the creditor comes due, you have to get your friends at City Hall to like prevent your shit from being repossessed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the context for all of this, but yeah, I'm just looking back at it.
Remember, Ben Dollard is helping Father what's his name prevent his stuff from being repossessed. There's some people who have some creditors, right, that have a claim and they're coming to collect, and so he's relying on Ben Dollard to use his connections to say, oh, the landlord has the prior claim.
Okay.
Right? I got to pay rent before you guys, Reuben J. Dodd and company, can whatever take
The
my
Jewish moneylenders,
antiques or whatever, right? Love is the name. This is Reverend Hugh Love, who I don't know if he's the landlord. Maybe these are minor details, but as usual, I fixate on them. So in the end, he says, "You can tell Barabbas from me that he can put that writ where Jacko put the nuts," and then that's where Simon has his remark about the Filberts. All right, so Eugene Stratton, the minstrel again. He grinned with thick. What is it? Do you want to complete that sentence? No? Okay. Blub lips a grin.
Who's this character?
The minstrel, right? He's in blackface. So he grinned with thick. What was the line?
Forget.
Oh, okay. Well, people can look it up.
They're talking about
Eugene.
Just to clarify the context. The context is they're talking about a minstrel in a show or something, right?
Yeah, remember, this is the character who is always in blackface, right? Okay. This is the
not a character in the streets of Dublin.
He is.
I don't remember meeting him.
Yes, of course you do. This is the N-word character.
Where did we meet this character? I don't remember this.
Well, maybe this. No, it's not the first. He appeared. Well, he's mentioned in Library for sure, and then I think another episode previous to that, right?
Okay.
Just look up Eugene Stratton. Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to trick you into getting yourself canceled, but you're not taking the bait.
Yeah.
All right. So the one-legged sailor, we talked about him. He's swinging himself onward by lazy jerks of his crutches. He's growling. I guess he's technically singing For England, Home and Beauty. And then Molly, who's also a singer, of course, drops him the coin.
Right.
Ben Dollard's a singer. Simon Dedalus is a singer. Blazes Boylan is he a singer or just an impresario?
He hums a song to himself.
Yeah.
That's Shop Girl scene.
But does he ever sing in any of these shows?
No, he's an impresario.
He's just an impresario.
He sets it up. Yeah.
He's a pimp.
He's associated with the world of song and performance.
Yes. Martin Cunningham, interestingly described by Father Conmee as a good practicing Catholic, useful at mission time. Did you look this guy up? Mr. Dennis J. McGinney, professor of dancing, etc. He's always mentioned with that description.
Did I look him up?
Yeah, who is he? He has a dancing school or something?
I suppose so. And that's the thing about this episode. There's so many characters. Some are mentioned just briefly in passing. So
yeah. J.J.O. Malloy, we met him before. Ned Lambert. Hugh C. Love, okay? He's apparently a landlord too, and he's interested in history. So Malloy brings Reverend Hugh C. Love to Lambert, who's showing him some historical site, and he's told, bring the camera whenever you like. He's well up in history, Faith. Again, they're talking about Hugh C. Love. This is interesting. We've got some onomatopoeia. Chow! That is a sneeze, for those who are wondering. Chow! All right, the Hellies guys, Wisdom Hellies or Heelys, the Helys, they're still around.
The sandwich board men, basically.
The sandwich board men. H halted and 4 tall-hatted white flagons halted behind him, ELY apostrophe S. Almadano Artifoni, arrivederla, maestro, Stephen said. And he's got sturdy trousers, whatever that means. Now, you're saying he's his music teacher? I thought maybe he was his Italian teacher.
Is
he learning Italian?
No, you're right. I made a mistake. Yeah, he's Italian. This is I think his Italian teacher.
So he's like an Italian tutor, or maybe he does teach him music. I don't know.
I believe so.
I didn't bother to translate a lot of that, but All right, here's a question for the gift, potentially. Tom, Rochford, Nosy Flynn, Linehan, and McCoy are looking at some contraption which says turn now on. And they like
Okay.
they drop something in the slot. Can you
I did
explain
look
this
this
for
up,
us?
right?
Okay.
A turn is a short theatric act in a variety show or vaudeville. So what
Okay.
he's got here is an invention for displaying which musical act is currently on stage during a performance involving multiple performances, right? So you
Okay.
got a vaudeville act with 10 performances, right? So his invention is just that, right? Some kind of display mechanism which allows you to see which, if you came in late, for example, you didn't come in the
Yeah.
beginning. You come in Act 4. There's going to be a clarification of which actor's watching.
Who invented it? Invented
Well,
it. Rochford?
this is Roachford is wanting to invent that or talking about something like that. The turn now on is what he's. I had to look this up. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no way I could have gotten this, but I looked it
No.
up, and so yes,
I
that's what
thought
they're
it was
talking
some kind
about.
of betting thing they were, because Nosy Flynn is there too from
Right,
Les Dragonians, right?
right, right.
Okay. I mean, again, these are minor things, but they're in there for a reason. Oh my God. More characters. Master Patrick Aloysius Dignam, that's Dignam's son, carrying 1.5 pounds of pork steaks. Interestingly, he uses the adjective blooming. I don't know if you noticed that. We've got some cockle pickers, 2 old women, one with a sanded umbrella, one with a midwife's bag in which 11 cockles rolled.
These are the cockle pickers from Proteus.
They're not, because it's
They're
2
not.
old women. Remember, it was a male and female couple in Proteus.
Oh,
Remember,
right,
they had a
right.
dog.
So
So
this is another
this
false
is
lead.
they were mentioned before, but also it reminds us of the 2 old women that climbed Nelson's pillar, right?
Right,
So
right,
again, all
right,
of these
right.
false positives.
Yeah,
Father
yeah, 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 yeah.
Cowley. Okay, it's Father Cowley. That's the guy's name. I'm barricaded up, Simon, with 2 men prowling around the house trying to effect an entrance. So these are the creditors, or agents of creditors. Jimmy Henry, the assistant town clerk. He's got corns. Just random details. There's this big hulking beast named Long John Fanning. Good day, Mr. Sub Sheriff, Martin Cunningham said. He's like a sub sheriff or deputy sheriff or something. Long John Fanning made no way for them. He removed his large Henry Clay, that's a hat, decisively, and his large, fierce eyes scowled intelligently over all their faces. So he's this big, bruising cop, basically, that
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be enlisted as well to
Yeah,
protect Father Cowley from the creditors. I
yeah.
don't know.
He gives off sort of a bouncer
Yeah,
vibes, doesn't he? Like a
yeah.
big bouncer like fella.
He's like, well, they're going up into some pub, so maybe he moonlights as a bouncer. All right, John Howard Parnell, we saw him before. He's always playing chess. Parnell's brother. John Howard, his brother, our city marshal, is how Mulligan describes him. Okay, and that's all the people, but then there's some places and things that kind of function as characters too. There's what is it? Flash forward, or an allusion, foreshadowing of the Ormond Hotel, which features in
The Sirens
Sirens,
episode.
the next episode. Bronze by Gold, Miss Kennedy's head by Miss Ducey's head appeared above the crossblind of the Ormond Hotel. So they're watching the cavalcade. They are 2 of the sirens that will appear in the next episode. The
And those
throwaway.
colors, by the way, just bronze by gold. That's one of the musical refrains, if you will, that will appear throughout the Sirens episode. Bronze by gold, gold by bronze, bronze, gold. Sometimes they'll just refer to them as bronze and gold. So
Yeah.
he's setting up that technique for the next chapter.
The throwaway we mentioned, a crumpled throwaway, Elijah is coming, rode lightly down the Liffey. As I say, it's almost like a character, It's a thrown away. It's a handbill, basically, that Bloom threw away. Threw it. He's a litter bug, and it's floating down the Liffey. So we're still following its course. There's reference to an explosion in New York. I think this has more significance later, but a dreadful catastrophe in New York. In America, those things were continually happening. That General Slocum explosion. And America, they say, is the land of the free. I thought we were bad here.
Right.
I can't remember
Now,
who this is
now
saying it.
just I looked this up. This is the sinking of the General Slocum steamboat, and the date on that was June 15th, 1904.
The day
So they're talking
before.
about it. Yeah, the next day they're talking about this big. This is in
It
the
was in
news,
the
right?
paper. Yeah.
They're talking about this huge explosion in America, right?
Yeah. America, and this is a real event, right? It actually happened.
Yeah, it did.
America, I said quietly, I don't know who the I is, just like that. What is it? The sweepings of every country, including our own. Isn't that true? That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have ice.
That's
All right,
right.
the cavalcade, the anticlimactic climax. The gates of the drive opened wide to give egress to the vice-regal cavalcade. So here's the state part of that dichotomy, right? We had the church, and here's the state.
Just to clarify for everyone who's looking at this for the cavalcade is basically going through the streets of London, of Dublin, the entire chapter, right? And so we see it interpolated, right, in other of these mini sections throughout, right? We see it just recur, different people reacting or looking at the cavalcade. And then we end with an entire section on the cavalcade.
Okay, I thought it started at the end. I thought all these other scenes occurred before, so it's simultaneous. We just don't get it till the end.
I mean, look at your first quote. It's from page 233, and the last couple of quotes are from like 252, 253, the end. So my only point is that scattered throughout this episodes are references to this passing cavalcade. Some people notice it. They're just in passing, and then at the end, that's the overall focus.
Yeah, that's right. But even 233 is still, let's see, it starts 219 in my text. So it's kind of in the middle, which makes me think some of these events happened before the parade or whatever started. But maybe I'm wrong. All right, the Lord Lieutenant General and General Governor of Ireland, William Humble, Earl of Dudley, and Lady Dudley, accompanied by Lieutenant Colonel Heseltine, drove out after luncheon from the Vice-Regal Lodge. Man, I think I have like 3 typos. In the following carriage were the Honorable Ms. Paget or Paget, Ms. de Courcy, and the Honorable Gerald Ward, ADC, in attendance. I didn't bother to look that up. The cavalcade passed out by the lower gate of Phoenix Park. All right, and so among the wandering rocks, we've got some random little pebbles here. DV, I like that. Deo volente, God willing, is what that means. It appears twice. There's some references to Irish martyrs. The slab where Wolfetone's statue was not. Down there, Emmett was hanged, drawn, and quartered. Times of the Troubles are mentioned. This is interesting because we think of the Troubles as being, as having occurred in like the 70s. So what troubles? What did they also call the 19? Which troubles are meant here? Basically, is my question.
No, I remember that, and I remember I did a double take, and I remember like, wait, the Troubles are later, and I looked it up. Yeah, so there must have been other Troubles as well. That's one for Gifford.
Yeah, Troubles. Which Troubles do we mean? I mean, 1916 was that Easter uprising, right? Mm-hmm. That was 1916, wasn't it? Pretty sure.
I think it's 1919.
19. All right. Well, let's look that up too.
What uprising?
Easter. Remember, it was.
Uprising.
Isn't that what it was called? Wait. Easter uprising.
I think you're right.
1916, wasn't it?
1916, right?
Yeah. All right.
Looking it up here. Yes.
Did you notice this? There's a pedestrian in a brown Macintosh.
He continues to recur, the Macintosh man.
It's got to be the same guy, or maybe it isn't. It is. This was cute, I thought. Finn's Hotel. Do you remember Finn's Hotel? We saw that big building, big capital letters, Finn's Hotel, still there, or was as of 2013. This dichotomy also occurred twice, gaily and gravely. I don't know if you noticed that at the very end. So Mulligan was watching the cavalcade gaily, and Haynes was watching it gravely. And then someone else, Mr. Dennis J. McGinney, professor of dancing, etc., gaily apparelled, gravely walked. So that, I mean, in the same paragraph and that same section describing the cavalcade, we get this this pair of adverbs, gaily and gravely, which I don't know. Is there any significance to that?
No clue.
Like overall for this episode, is it both gay and grave? Is it, comical and serious, or lighthearted and melancholic? I don't know.
Hard to say.
Hard to
what
say.
we do have is we do have a kind of act, right? If we could just go back to the idea, these vaudeville shows, these theatrical performances, are composed of multiple mini shows, right? And that's what he's just given us here in Wandering Rocks.
Okay, well, that's all of Marble's notes, or all the notes in the Marble section. Moving on to our playlist. Our playlist, we got to start with Rocks Off, because that's what we did in this episode. We got our rocks off. Wandering Rocks. Oh, rocks, get it? Also, The Wanderer by Dion. Where the Streets Have No Name by our favorite Irish band, U2, or maybe not. Street Life, Roxy Music. The organ is Blood, so we got Pearl Jam's Blood, Pete Townshend's Give Blood, The Stones Appear Again, Too Much Blood. Silent Running. There's mention of church and state in this song, so I thought that would be the best. Mike and the Mechanics. That's the art, Mechanics. She's a Rainbow for the Color. I should point out, most of the schemata say there's no color at all, but I think the Lenati mentions rainbow, so it's a parenthetical color. And then for the parade or cavalcade, Tom Waits, In the Neighborhood. There's the video. The video features a parade. I also thought of the parade at the end of 8½. That's kind of it's kind of a Fellini-esque parade that we get in with this cavalcade. No, like all these different freakish wandering rock characters just randomly there. Some are paying attention, some couldn't care less.
Yeah, it's an incredible sort of bird's eye view, right, of what's happening at this imagined moment in time in Dublin.
Yeah. All right, don't forget to support the Houston Joyce Society. Get your copy of Flans Day by Mark, Will, and G.J. Villa. And stay tuned for Wilds Day coming soon. I've been saying that how long? Well, still true.
Once or thrice.
Yeah. Or 10,000 times. Mark Will Write, WRITE.substack.com. Subscribe there. And you can watch this on YouTube at Mark Will Write, WRITE. Let me stop sharing. Back to our ugly mugs and my less than appealing background here.
So what's your, if you had to like sort of say your final take or final thoughts on Wandering Rocks and what Joyce is doing here, or whatever your appreciations of it, or maybe you didn't. What are your thoughts about this episode?
I mean, I like thinking of it as an intermission, an entr'acte, as you say, something occurring between the acts, the real episodes. I mean, it is in the middle, so that's appropriate. I like the fact that it's kind of a miniature novella, I guess, or it's like Ulysses in miniature. If Ulysses is an epic, this could be like an Epyllion, a mini epic. I like thinking of the citizens as wandering rocks that one has to avoid in order not to be shipwrecked. It seems like I have the hiccups now.
There's a lot you appreciate, even if it's not like a favorite. You could never
Yeah.
call like a, the intermission is never gonna be your favorite part, but it certainly fits within the scheme, right? And there's plenty to appreciate here.
Yeah, every episode serves its purpose,
To
even
me,
when
I think about this episode, I think like this could almost be I'm reminded of Dubliners, right? The difference though in Dubliners, of course, you have a story, and a story is going to be focused on one or maybe a couple of characters who get fleshed out a little bit more. And this is almost like in the middle of Ulysses, a sketch where Joyce could, if he had wanted to, gone back, and plucked out some of these characters and given them their own stories. It's certainly a reminder that within the story of our Ulysses and our Telemachus and our Penelope, there are all these other people living at the same time, some of whom might be developed a little bit more, some of them might just be developed hardly at all, right? But we are getting that kind of global vision of the world that he's evoking here.
If we think about it in cinematic terms, we already talked about jump cuts and flashbacks and so on. It's almost like a trailer for Dubliners, It's like, if you like Wandering Rocks, you'll love Dubliners in theaters now.
Right.
And maybe it's like a digest of Dubliners, because a lot of the same characters appear in Dubliners.
Right.
So it's like he revamped Dubliners. He cannibalized Dubliners for Ulysses, you could say.
Right. All part of the same interlocking unity. If you think about the unity between the three works, Dubliners, Portrait, Ulysses, they're all part of the same Joycean universe.
Hey, we did well. We're under 2 hours here, so
amazing.
Let's wrap this shit up.
All right.
This has been episode 10. And next is episode 11, Sirens. So what kind of preview, speaking of trailers, what's the trailer for Sirens? Like, what preview can you give us?
Well,
it's musical. It's a very musical episode.
Feature snippets of the different singers who are going to perform for us, as well as the musicality of the prose, right? When we eventually talk about what Joyce is doing in interesting ways with phrasing and syntax and recurring imagery and so on. So a very musical chapter at a bar in a dining establishment, right? We have two scenes, really. Bloom on one side eating, hearing the music in the other room where the men are drinking and performing. So it's a fun chapter. Unique, as all of these chapters are unique unto themselves, it also has a lot of unique things that will be, I think we'll enjoy.
The onomatopoeia is very important.
Right.
There's more experimentation with language, making prose into music. But we'll get into that next time. So this has been episode 10 of the Rejoyce series. HJS is rereading Ulysses. We invite everyone to join us on this journey. You can watch all the previous breakdowns, all the previous episodes. I mean, I think we do a pretty thorough job of analyzing and discussing these unique episodes. Every episode is unique. It's a new universe, a new world, different from all the others. But they all cohere into one great book, which is James Joyce's Ulysses.
There you go.
Next time we'll talk about episode 11, which is called Sirens. And we'll see you then. Farewell.